ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। जय श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृन्द। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavad Gita chapter 16 verse 21. Trividham narakasya idam dvaram nashanam atmanah kamah krodha tatha lobha tasmat etat trayam tyajet. Lust, anger and greed are the three gates that lead to hell, and they cause the destruction of the soul. Therefore, one should completely renounce them. In the last several verses, Lord Krishna has described various demoniac qualities. In this verse, he points out three of those which are specifically the cause of all the other demoniac qualities. He says, Trividham narakasya idam, that there are three of these qualities that cause the destruction of the living entity. Meaning, while in this life the living entity suffers from innumerable problems because of these three demoniac qualities, and these not only give trouble in this life but also lead to hellish planets after death. So which are these three? He says kamaha, krodha tatha lobha, lust, anger and greed. In all our Vedic scriptures, it has been described that there are 6 main enemies that we have: lust, anger, greed, attachment, false pride and jealousy. And among all these 6, Krishna is pointing out 3: lust, anger and greed. And in fact, among these 3 also, the main one is lust. It is lust and lust only which is the cause of our entanglement in the material life. Lust is the desire to enjoy material sense objects, to enjoy independent of the Supreme Lord. That desire to enjoy our senses is what makes us opposed to the Supreme Lord. In Chaitanya Charitamrita it states, Atmendriya Priti Vancha Tare Bali Kam. The desire to gratify one's senses is lust. And when the same desire is to give satisfaction to the senses of the Lord, Shri Krishna, then that becomes pure love. Atmendriya Priti Vancha Tare Bali Kam, Krishnendriya Priti Ichha Dhare Prem Nam. Demoniac life means to be opposed to the Lord. And how does one become opposed to the Lord? When he wants to enjoy independent of him. From that marginal position, the Tatastha Shakti, the living entities who decided that they want to enjoy independent of the Lord, they fell down in the material world. And in the pursuit to enjoy the senses more and more, the living entity keeps degrading down to more and more hellish life. So lust is the beginning of demoniac life. How does thus lust begin? Krishna described in the 2nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita in verses 62 and 63. He stated, Dhyato Vishayan Punsah Sangah Teshu Upajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha Kamat Krodh Abhijayate. That when one continuously meditates on the objects of the senses, he develops attachment to them. See, the entire advertising industry is based on this. To keep flashing these sense objects in front of our eyes. So they leave no stone unturned and find every potential channel to show ads to us. And when you keep thinking, when you see them, then those impressions get created, and then you start meditating on those objects, and then what happens? Attachment develops to them. So Krishna says, Sangat sanjayate kamaha. This attachment is what gives rise to lust. So attachment leads to the desire to attain that particular object, to enjoy that object. See, in the previous days, even during the time of our grandparents, we saw that they were not as attached to sense objects, and in general they were more peaceful. Why? Because first of all, neither were there so many things to enjoy, and secondly, there wasn't this huge ad industry which was through multiple channels trying to sell items. So when you are seeing all the objects of sense gratification, then slowly attachment develops to them, and that leads to lust. And that in turn leads to awakening of anger. Kamat krodh abhijayate. When one is not able to attain those objects that he wants for his sense enjoyment, then anger develops. Krodhat bhavati sammoha, sammohat smriti vibhramaha. Anger gives rise to utter delusion, and from such delusion comes loss of memory. What is loss of memory? Forgetting the instructions of the scriptures. What is right and what is wrong for us. When the desire to attain sense objects, to enjoy our senses, becomes so powerful that we completely forget what is right and what is wrong, and to enjoy the senses we are ready to go to any extreme. This smriti bhranshat buddhi nashat pranashati. So loss of memory or forgetfulness of the instructions of the scriptures destroys one's intelligence. Intelligence is what is supposed to guide us regarding what is right and what is wrong. And when the intelligence is destroyed, one's entire spiritual direction in life is lost, and then one falls into the ocean of material existence. So this is how lust leads to complete destruction of the soul, as Shri Krishna is stating here. Therefore, lust and anger are our greatest enemies. Krishna also stated in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, verse 37, Kama esh krodha esh rajo gun samudbhavaha mahashano mahapapma vidhi enam hi vairinam. That lust, the desire to enjoy sense objects, which indeed transforms into anger, is born of passion. It is all devouring and extremely fearsome. Know it to be the primary enemy of the living entity within this world. So Krishna there also. So see, starting from the 2nd chapter, from the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, throughout his message to Arjun, Krishna is cautioning that beware of lust, which is your greatest enemy, because it causes complete destruction. And lust is so strong that it never gets satisfied. Maharaj Yayati, who became so lusty that he wanted the youth of his son to enjoy more and more. Finally, when he realized that how fallen he had become, he shared his realizations with his wife and instructed her. He said that yath prithivayam vrihi yavam hiranyam pashvah striyaha, that all the grains, barley, gold, animals, women, and so forth on earth cannot satisfy the lust of even one man. That means the lust can never be satisfied. We may think, oh, I will enjoy this much and then I will be peaceful. No. Then the desire to enjoy will become even more, because that amount of enjoyment will not give you satisfaction. You see, those who take alcohol or any kind of intoxicants, they start with small quantities and less level of intoxication. But then their senses become so used to it that they don't get the kick out of that level of intoxication. Then they take more and then more and more. It is never enough because the senses are never satisfied. Why? Maharaj Yayati says, Na jatu kamaha kamanam upabhogen shamyati havisha krishna vartameva bhuyah ev avi vardhate. By adding ghee to a fire, the fire becomes intensified, right? So the ghee is the fuel for the fire. So if you want to calm the fire by adding ghee or by adding oil to it, it is not going to calm down, it is only going to become stronger. So he says, similarly, by the fulfillment of lusty desires, one's desires are intensified, they do not disappear. This lust is such that it covers the true knowledge of the living being. Krishna says, Avritam jnanam etena jnanina nitya vairina kam rupena kantya dushpuren analena cha. The true knowledge of the wise living entity is covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust. This lust burns like fire and can never be satisfied. So, if one is serious about making spiritual progress, then the very first thing is to control the lust. Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada states in the commentary that a sane man who does not want to glide down to the species of demoniac life must try to give up these three enemies, which can kill the self to such an extent that there will be no possibility of liberation from this material entanglement. So we should be very careful about this. The level of destruction lust can cause is so significant that Srila Prabhupada is saying that there is no possibility of liberation unless somehow or the other one comes into contact of devotees. Srila Gurudev states in the commentary that every human being who desires his own welfare should give up these three demoniac qualities, lust, anger and greed, and give them up completely, as Krishna is saying, not partially. Because just like fire, if it is burning partially and if you put some ghee on top of it, it will again become intense. It will again become very strong. So similarly, if we don't completely give up these demonic qualities, then slowly they may again become very strong. See, the Maya or the illusory energy is very, very powerful. And it is finding every opportunity, every loophole to come and attack us. So, just like a very alert security guard who will not let anyone come inside the house if he is guarding the house, we have to be very, very alert. So Srila Gurudev states that we should give these up completely if we are serious about our welfare. It is not even possible for karmis, jnanis or yogis to control their tendencies despite their various endeavors. But a pure devotee, by the powerful influence of saintly association, easily engages these three enemies in the service of Sri Hari and thus displays an extraordinary example of subduing them. Very important instruction to understand that it is not possible to control these demoniac qualities through any other yogic process, either by cultivation of impersonal knowledge, or by meditating, or by karma yoga. One may be able to control to some extent, but complete control is not possible. Therefore, we see so many examples in the scriptures where someone who was performing meditation for thousands of years was carried away by seeing the dance or just hearing the ankle bells of a heavenly lady, a damsel. Many times Indra, who is the king of demigods, he becomes very concerned when someone is performing a great tapasya, because he's scared that if this person becomes very powerful, he will take my throne. So he sends these heavenly ladies who are very, very beautiful to break the tapasya of such yogis, and many of them get carried away. But on the other side, we see Haridas Thakur, who was an associate of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and constantly chanting the holy name. Every day he would chant 3 lakh holy names, which is equivalent to 64, more than 64 rounds. So 100,000 is 64 rounds. So like this, he would chant 3 times 64 rounds of the mala, which has 108 beads. And by the potency of the holy name, he had complete control on his senses. So when the local pandits, who were very envious of him, they sent a prostitute to attract him and make him fall down so they could blaspheme him, he was not at all disturbed. And hearing his pure chanting, within 3 days, that prostitute became a devotee. So she was sitting outside his cottage, waiting for him to complete his rounds so that she could enjoy with him. But just listening to his pure chanting, all her lusty desires were destroyed. So that is the power of saintly association, that one can easily overcome these 3 enemies. Shri Krishna states to Uddhav in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 28, Kaschit mam anudhyayena nama sankirtanadhibihi yogeshwara anuvrittya va hanyat ashubh dan shanahi. That these inauspicious disturbances which are caused by lust can be gradually removed by constant remembrance of me, by congregational hearing and chanting of my holy names, or by following in the footsteps of the great masters of yoga. So he clearly states that by chanting of the holy name, congregational chanting, when we sit with the devotees and chant his holy names, or following in the footsteps of pure devotees, and by constantly remembering his transcendental pastimes. Among all those pastimes, the most powerful pastime is of the Lord's Rasa Leela. In Srimad Bhagavatam, after describing the Rasa Leela, Shri Shukdev Goswami states, Vikriditam vrajvadhubhi idam cha Vishnuho Shraddhan vitaha अनुशृणुयात अथ वर्णयेत यह भक्तिम पराम भगवती प्रतिलभ्य कामम हृत रोग गम आशु अपहिनोति अचिरेन धीरः. That anyone who faithfully hears or describes the Lord's playful affairs or the Rasa Leela with the gopis of Vrindavan will attain the Lord's pure devotional service. He says, Shraddhan vitoho anushunuyat athvarnayet yah. So if either one describes or hears, but with faith, what happens? Bhaktim param bhagavati. he will attain the supreme devotion, the pure devotion to the Supreme Lord. Kamam hrit rogam ashu apihinoti. And very quickly, the disease of the heart, what is the disease of the heart? The lust will disappear. He will be able to conquer that lust and will become very sober, very peaceful. And only such a person can indeed be happy. Shri Krishna states in the 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Shaknoti ihi ev yah sodhum prak sharir vimokshanat kam krodh udbhavam vegam sahayukta sa sukhi naraha. Before giving up the body, he who in this very life can tolerate the urges born of lust and anger is a yogi and is indeed happy. So we should take seriously to spiritual life, to chanting of the holy name, and then very easily, by associating with the devotees, engaging our senses in the service of the Lord, we can overcome these very powerful enemies, lust, anger and greed, and we can attain eternal happiness in the abode of the Supreme Lord. Hare Krishna, Radhe Radhe. Have a very blessed day.